and specialist in oil and energy affairs, Mr. Amer Shobaki, to discuss the U.S.-Ukraine minerals deal, particularly its strategic implications, Ukraine's negotiating position, and the geopolitical impact. Sir, thank you so much for joining us on the Economic Bulletin, and let me start by asking you, what are the strategic advantages for the U.S. in securing access to Ukraine's critical minerals, particularly rare earth elements?
I think that the benefits will be gained by the United States that will extend to economic, strategic, political gains, and even related to the U.S. national security. As Ukraine is full of very precious minerals and wealth estimated at $15 trillion, we haven't seen as the deal yet, but the American proposal was 50% of these wealth and minerals, which was not approved by Ukraine. I think after this deal, the U.S. will gain approvals and concessions of obtaining such minerals and wealth. The U.S. might not need the Chinese minerals after finalizing this deal, especially that the current U.S. President Trump is trying to impose sanctions or punish China by imposing high tariffs on their goods and stopping importing some rare minerals from China. I think this deal is the survival process for the United States by obtaining such rare and vital minerals.
Now, delving into more details with you, sir, what role do Ukraine's critical minerals play in the broader context of global supply chains and particularly in the energy transition and technology sectors?
Today we have lithium, graphite, uranium, these very vital, important minerals. We are talking about lithium is highly important for electric vehicles, batteries, and also for renewable energy storages. We're talking also about the minerals for the use of electronic chips, some very rare minerals owned by Ukraine. Other minerals are used in defense industry. When we talk about electronic chips as well, we talk about the advancement of artificial intelligence. I think Russia taking control of such minerals or the US taking control of such minerals will guarantee advantage in the conflict between them and China. Also, the Russian control over 20% of the Ukrainian territories and a part of the mineral wealth of Ukraine. I think there will be understandings and agreements between the US and Russia to affirm that these wealth will not be under the control of China, which will take Russia a little further away from China and closer to the United States, especially in the light of what Russia is suffering from regarding the sanctions and what has been stated by the Treasury Secretary today, that the sanctions on Russia is now up for negotiation and the United States is ready to alleviate such sanctions.
Now, sir, I have to ask you, in your opinion, which party, Ukraine or the United States, stands to benefit more from such an agreement and why?
For the recent few years, Ukraine hasn't been able to fully benefit from this mineral wealth, because this wealth and these minerals require advanced technology to be extracted and explored, which is not owned by Ukraine. I think the United States also is one of the very few countries around the world that can actually benefit from the Ukrainian wealth completely. So I think that the benefit will be common between and mutual between the two parties, especially that the US is requiring the Ukrainian of like an alternative for their or they're asking them for something in exchange of the military support the US has provided Ukraine for years. I think this will be a gain and a success and advantage for the US President Trump.
Now, looking ahead, could this deal set a precedent for future U.S. foreign aid agreements being tied to resource concessions, and how might this impact global geopolitics?
Yes, this will set a precedent, and that one country takes the resources from another in exchange for aid. Some might describe this agreement as a modern occupation or modern colonization, and might describe this as the Ukrainian state is giving in to the US. It is actually a precedent in the agreement side.
Now, back to the 50-50 proposal that Washington proposed. Why did President Zelensky reject it, and what terms would be more favorable or acceptable to Kyiv?
Usually, investments are agreed upon in a satisfactory way for both parties, and I think the percentage first was 75% for Ukraine and 25% for the investor, which in this case is the United States. But with the Ukrainian debt to America, I think that the Ukrainian president has no other choice but to accept the deal. Zelensky described this offer as selling Ukraine, and I think his acceptance now to the 50-50 deal will actually not be in his best interest, especially that he described this as a new occupation for Ukraine.
Now, President Trump has argued that the United States should get something back for its military aid to Ukraine. How common is this approach in international relations, and what are its potential risks?
Yes, of course, this establishes a new principles. Each country will think very carefully before taking or accepting aid from another countries. Each country that receives aid should set some terms to accept the aid. It was a trap that Ukraine went through, and I think many countries in the future will think like 1,000 times before being trapped like this. I think now we see that nothing is free. There is everything is in exchange for something here.
Thank you so much, Mr. Aimer Shobaki, for your insights and for all the information you provided us with, and for joining us here on the Economic Bulletin. Thank you so much for being with us.